Okay. All right. For anyone that is just joining, so this is Ruby Franke and Kevin Frankie. They were married and had 6 children. If you have not followed this case, go check out my file on my page. Under my profile, there's a Ruby Franke folder. It has everything, all of the audios, the videos. There are some screen recordings and screen grabs and things from their vlog that they did, the whole shebang. But basically, these two were Mormon vloggers on YouTube. They had a page called 8 Passengers where they would showcase their family, and it took off. They ended up having, at the end of their run, 2.5 million followers. I believe her account became the biggest of her family. Her family's all vloggers as well. Panda taking the title gifter spot. Thank you, darling. All right. So like I said, famous vloggers from Utah. They are Mormons. They had 6 children. Everybody right away kind of fell in love with them. They loved the children. They liked kind of the videos. You know, you like getting in and kind of seeing the family at once. Kagandi, thank you so much for your first gift. That always means so much. Thank you. The problem is Ruby and Frankie have a very different parenting style. Should we say it that way? Controversial parenting style. And very soon into what was going on in the vlogs, people started kind of turning their head and being like, I'm sorry, what? There was just some weird crap going on. If you have not seen their video footage, you have got to go to my page and check it out. Some of the major examples that we can kind of share is with the kids. It was always with the kids. A lot of it was always centered around food. This woman's got something with food. She feels like it's a privilege. I don't know if this was like her history or what. Melissa and Jenna, thank you. But she definitely has something going on around food. She would tell the kids, you can't have breakfast until your chores are done. She would tell the kids, if you don't stop and misbehaving, no supper for you tonight. Like everything was related to punishment around food. She ended up getting a phone call one time from her youngest daughter's teacher, who basically said that the youngest daughter, Jenna, thank you. The youngest daughter forgot her lunch and could Ruby drop a lunch off for her? And Ruby's on the camera like bitching about it. Like, it's her responsibility. She was supposed to pack her lunch. She didn't bring it. She didn't pack it. This is on her. It's a lesson learned. And those teachers better not feed my daughter. Like it's very telling, guys. Another situation was her oldest son, Chad. Chad is, what is Chad now, guys? 19? He must be 19 now. He ended up at one point doing a prank on his younger brother, which wasn't very nice. And he ended up getting grounded, which, you know, totally normal, except her grounding, her choice or their choice of grounding was to ground him from his own bedroom for 7 months. So was it 7 months, guys? Look, I got to read my notes. Now I'm like forgetting on times. Anyway, I think it was 7 months. He had to sleep on like a beanbag chair in the living room. He didn't have his own bed. Like the whole thing is just extremely sketch. So when all this started, all this hate started picking up. People started contacting DCFS, like the Child and Family Services. People started contacting the police. They were having people pop in and check on the kids. The police would stop by. They were getting a ton of hate. So she stopped posting as much. So she started posting just once or twice a week. The hate wasn't stopping. People had a petition at one point. Like it got heavy. So she ended up in January of 2022, I believe it was. See, I got to look at the notes now, guys. All my dates are smushed together. Anyway, she posted for the last time in January and shut her account down. I'm going to go for my notes, guys, just because I need the recap here too. So let me see if I can. I'm going to go with my timeline. In 2020. So Chad was grounded from his bedroom in 2020. The channel was launched in 2015. Just a typical Mormon suburban families, what everybody thought. And then something else happened, right? Started posting 2 to 3 times. Well, here it is. Okay. So yeah, January 2022 was when she stopped. B, thank you. In June of 2022 is when she joined Connections with Jody Hildebrand. Jody Hildebrand then became her business partner. Let me grab the picture of good old Jody Hildebrand with Ruby Franke. So Jody Hildebrand ran this website, blog, whatever you want to call it, called Connections. And Jody Hildebrand had been a counselor. Here we go, guys. There's the two of them. This is Ruby Franke. This is her partner, Jody Hildebrand. She had been counseling Jody's family, including Jody and her husband. Ruby's family, including Ruby and her husband, Kevin. The two of them had been getting counseled for marriage issues. And her go-to was always, you're a sex addict and you have issues. So this is kind of what she's telling Kevin. Anyway, she ends up leaving her vlog, her 8 passengers, and joins up with Jody Hildebrand to this connections garbage that they started doing. It was like relationship counseling with a religious twist in the dark side. Like, that's how we'll sum it up. It was not good. That was in June of 2022. What ended up happening was they would videotape the vlog or the podcast and stuff like that in Jody's basement of her $5.3 million home, which was 5 hours away from the Franke family's house. So what Ruby was doing is she was leaving her children and driving the 5 hours to Jody's home and staying there for days at a time. Now, she had kicked out Kevin Franke, her husband. This was Jody's idea. Jody said, if you guys want your marriage to work out, you need to kick him out and tell him he's not allowed to contact you. He's just got to, be MIA. You can call him like 2 to 3 times in the year, but he needs to leave for a year and can't have contact with anyone, including the children. And guys, this man did it. Kevin Franke did it. He left. He actually took his 18-year-old son, Chad, with him at the time. Chad moved out as well. And eventually, Jody was like, nope, you can't have Chad here. You need to get rid of Chad as well. So Chad ended up having to move out and got his own apartment or dorm or whatever he's doing at university. Sherry, their oldest daughter, who is 21 now, I believe, she had moved out a year before that and basically disowned her family. She wasn't speaking to any of them, not her siblings, not her parents, none of them. She did reconnect, however, with Ruby Franke's family. So Ruby had disowned her own family, had disconnected from them completely. Her husband, Kevin, had done the same with his family. They just completely were isolating themselves. So when Sherry left, she ended up contacting Ruby's siblings and reconnected with her aunts. So Ruby has several family members. She's got sisters Bonnie, Julie, and Ellie, and she has a brother, Bo. They are all kind of in the public spotlight except for Bo. He doesn't seem to vlog as much, but the other 3 are vloggers as well and still are. So Sherry had pieced out and was gone. At this point, when Ruby is now traveling to Jody's, the neighbors are paying attention to this. They're like, what's going on? Why is there no vehicles at this house? Why is there just 4 children living in this home by themselves? So there was 2 middle children, a 16 and a 14-year-old, and the 2 youngest, which were 8 and 10 at the time. Yes, 8 and 10 at the time. Sorry, squirreled there. So the kids were all being left home alone. The neighbors were contacting police. They were contacting DCFS. They were contacting the oldest sister, Sherry. Sherry at one point did a 911 call, which is on my page if you want to check it out. Again, under the folder Ruby Franke. And basically told the police, like, my younger siblings are home alone. It's been 5 days, according to the neighbors. I need someone to do a wellness check. The police go, they see the kids in the window. When they knock, the kids all run and hide. They won't answer the door. The police said like they don't have justification to break in because they're 14 and 16. Kind of a tight place, right? They didn't have any proof that they were in danger or anything like that. So, I mean, it was tough. It looks like possibly these calls were so continuous that Ruby finally was like, fine, I'll take the 2 younger children with me. So she ends up taking the 10 and 12-year-old, is what they were at this age now, to Jody Hildebrand's home, which is 5 hours away, and leaving the 14 and 16-year-old back at the Franke family home. Now, at this time, they're still doing this vlogging, podcasting, whatever. She claims she's homeschooling the 10 and 12-year-old. So that's why they weren't going to school. But the 14 and 16-year-old are still going to school, and they're even working. They have their own jobs now. They are fending for themselves, buying their own groceries, like you name it. They are basically living on their own back at their home while she's 5 hours away, shacked up with her partner, Jody Hildebrand. Okay. In July of 2023, so just this past July, we know now that her youngest son, who was 12 years old at the time, tried to run away. He was caught by them and he was restrained. They started tying him up. We know all of this because he tried it again in August and he got away. So in August, just last year, the end of August of 2023, her youngest son, who was 12 years old, escaped from Jodi Hildebrand's house by climbing out some sort of a window, went to a neighbor's home, and the neighbor called 911. Thank you, Lily. Thank you. The neighbor's phone call is extremely disturbing. I'll just give you a warning now, but if you do want to hear it, it's on my page under my profile. It says Ruby Franke. You can listen in there. But basically the neighbor was visibly upset, or sounded audibly upset, saying that there was a young boy at his door, that he had restraints on him, duct tape on his wrists and ankles, lacerations, looked extremely malnourished, just did not look good at all. Extremely upsetting. The police, of course, immediately go. The ambulance goes, they take him to the hospital, and he tells them, my sister's also at that home. Oh, Lavender, thank you. They go to Jodi Hildebrand's home, break in, well, not break in, but go in. They have a search warrant. They arrest her, and they find the 10-year-old in basically the same situation in the home. She was not restrained, however, but she was just as malnourished and being mistreated as well. So they take them both to the hospital where they're admitted, and they need care for their extreme malnourishment and the wounds that the 12-year-old sustained from being tied. We now know from all this investigating that he was basically being hogtied. So he was being forced to lay on his belly, and he had his feet bent up behind him and then his hands behind his back, handcuffed and duct taped together. So this caused a lot of tissue damage, they said. And of course, it broke his skin open. And what these two idiots, Jenna, thank you, darling, would do is put this like home concoction of cayenne pepper and honey and smear it into his wounds, and then just put duct tape over it, and then the handcuffs back on. At one point when this first started, he would be handcuffed to one of them. And then I guess that was just too inconvenient for them, so they just hogtied him to the floor. When this first came out, it was reported in the news that they were being held in this safe room, this panic room in Jodi Hildebrand's. That is not true. That was just kind of relayed over the 911 calls. They wanted to get into this panic room to see if any of the other children were in there. Because they couldn't get into the panic room right away, they ended up also raiding Ruby Franke's home at her homestead looking for the younger children because they didn't know where the children were. So they did kick the door in with full-on rifles, you name it. They busted that door in, like the door was busted. They went in, no one was there. They found out that the two girls were actually at work at the time. Back at Jodi Hildebrand's home, they did get into the safe room. There were no kids, as you know, in that room. Emily, thank you. Thank you for going for the live goal, babe. There was no kids in the room. So they were able to move on from that. In the search warrant at Jodi Hildebrand's home, let me grab my items that we found. I told you we've got 10 pages of notes, guys, so bear with me. Oh, there's the charges. Okay, search warrant, here we go. There was 3 search warrants in total that they had to do. There were 2 on the day of and 1 on the day after, and I'll let you know why. The first day, they did the search warrant at 2 p.m. on August 30th. Basically, the children were found emaciated. They were extremely thin. They were weak. They had to go to emerge. Like, it was a really bad situation. They said that there was wounds from the ropes that were used to tie him to the ground, and Jodi put the ropes on his ankles and wrists. This is coming from him. He said Jodi did this. And then they used the cayenne pepper and honey to try and fix the wounds, allegedly. They did a full sweep of the house at that time before the search warrants because they were able to, right? Because there's a threat of harm. So they did a full sweep. They found the 10-year-old daughter as well, who was reluctant to talk to them, they said. And she was also in the same situation, malnourished, thin, extremely weak, etc. Now, what they found on the search warrant is they went in looking for things due to the situation, right? Due to the abuse. So that's what they're collecting. So this is what they got. They found tape, saran wrap, papers, some notes, a journal, 2 bowls with a red liquid in it with a metal spoon, 2 super absorbent dressings, 2 bandages with 4 little white ankle socks by it, 3 sets of brown and white rope, 2 handcuffs, 3 carabiners, which were used to link the handcuffs together from his hands and his ankles. They found 2 used medical grade gauze dressings that were near cayenne pepper and honey paste. That's how they knew they were using that concoction. And then they did the second search warrant that night at 5:30 p.m. So they had done this initial search warrant. Then they realized they wanted more. So they did another one. This was for electronics. So on this one, they went in and they took any and all cell phones, audio recordings, computers, tablets, laptops, surveillance footage, doorbell cameras, anything at all that could be used to send text messages, emails, videos, anything like that. They ended up getting 3 Apple iPhones, 4 Apple MacBooks, and then they realized they didn't have this woman's actual cell phone. Now, she was using it allegedly when they went to the door and arrested her, but they didn't have it in that initial search warrant. So they had to do a third search warrant, and they did this one the next morning at 8 a.m. So the third one was just for Jody's iPhone. They said that she was in possession of it when the officers made contact with her, but they didn't have it in that search warrant, so they had to go back. She has now surrendered, or had quite a while ago, surrendered her medical license for her therapy that she was doing. She was basically forced to. They told her, if you don't give it, we're going to take it. So she surrendered it. The Connections classroom that she was running actually had workbooks and things that people could work through and do. They wanted all the video footage from all of that, and they've got it all. All the footage from that has been taken. Her first license at a clinical mental health counselor was in Utah in 2005. So this woman has been counseling people since 2005. Like, that's scary. A lot of people have come forward now talking about how detrimental she was to their marriage, to their life, you name it. Like, it's not good. That is the search warrants that they conducted. That was all done the day of, August 30th and August 31st. That's all the stuff that they collected. When they did the search, Jenna, thank you, sweetheart. Jenna. Thank you, everybody who is sending gifts and tapping your fingers on those screens. I appreciate it, and I see you. Thank you. When they did the raid of Ruby and Kevin Frankie's home, they broke down the door. They were looking for the 14 and 16-year-old. The girls were not there. They ended up contacting people and finding out that the girls were actually working. So they did go to the girls' place of work. The first time they contacted it, I believe it was like a Home Depot type place. I can't remember the name. I probably have it written down somewhere. I believe it was a home hardware type store. They go there and they call first, and the boss says, yes, she was here. However, someone came and said there was a family emergency and picked her up. So they were like, do you know who it is? They're like, she's on video footage. So they go, they look at the footage, and it is this woman. Let me grab her picture. If I still have her picture. Hold on, guys. So this, I am going to, yeah, there we go. I'm going to make this big, guys, so you can see it for a sec. So this is who picked the girls up. This is Pam Bodger. And if we read the fine print, Pam Bodger is the president of Connections Foundation. Yep, there she is. Good old Pam Bodger, guys. Right underneath, Ruby Franke. Yep, this is her. Honest to God. Now, Pam picks them up, and there is a whole bunch of craziness that took place after they found out Pam Bodger had picked them up. I have all the video footage of that on my page as well. It's in the Ruby Franke folder, and you can also hit follow if you're interested, because I will definitely be updating with this, because tomorrow is the big sentencing day. All right, let's go on. Here we go. Pam Bodger. So they end up finding out that they didn't know both girls had been picked up by Pam Bodger. They knew one was picked up. So they contact the police where Pam Bodger lives. The police head off to Pam Bodger's home, bang on the door. Her husband and she answer, and they're like, we need to detain you. There's a situation. She's like, what are you talking about? Mads, thank you for your first gift, sweetheart. They end up taking her out of the house. They end up they want to see the daughter. So they bring one of the daughters to the door, and she's like, hey, I'm here. Like, what's happening? They take Pam Bodger to the car, and she starts telling them this like sketch story at first. She tells them when they get there that Ruby Franke contacted her. Well, no, she didn't even say Ruby Franke contacted her. She said, I wanted to go get Ruby Franke's girls because I wanted them to help clean my house. I have company coming. So this was the story she told them at first. Jenna, thank you. So get in this big conversation, and the police are like, wait, you have both girls here? And she's like, yeah, they're both here. Like, I got them both. So at the time that the police in Pam's town get the phone call, they're thinking it's Pam's children that they're there for. Then they soon realize it's not. It's Ruby Franke's, but they've been restrained, etc. So Pam starts giving more information. Once she finds out that they've been restrained, she seemed to open up a little bit more. Then she tells the police Ruby Franke had contacted her. She says she gets a call from Ruby. Ruby says, there's a family emergency. I've got to drive wherever. I need you to go get the girls and keep them for me. So Pam's like, yeah, okay, sure, BFF, I'll go get them. Now, it does come out allegedly that Pam has had the girls at her house cleaning in the past, so this wasn't something new. They were familiar with Pam. I believe they wanted to stay at Pam's home, but she did have both girls. What ended up happening next was the two youngest children become custody of the state. They're in the hospital being treated, the 10 and 12-year-old. The two middle girls, the 14 and 16-year-old, when the police get there, they take the girls, DCFS arrives, Family Services. They give the girls an option. They tell the girls, you can either stay in the state custody, which means go to a group home, foster home, something like that, or you can go stay with your older sister, Sherry. She has said she will take temporary custody of you or house you while they will still be in state custody, but Sherry could keep them. They begrudgingly decide to go to Sherry's. Now remember, they hadn't had contact with Sherry in over a year. She had basically disowned her whole family. She didn't want anything to do with them because of their beliefs and what she was going through. So you can imagine what these people were saying about Sherry. Okay, first of all. Second of all, this woman controlled every aspect of their life. And if you've ever watched any of the 8 passengers footage, you would know that the two middle girls seemed to toe the line. Like they did anything and everything Ruby Franke said. They didn't seem to get in much trouble. She treated the two youngest the worst, it seems, and the two oldest in a different kind of way. Whole different thing. But the two girls in the middle seemed to just lead the straight and narrow to make her happy. So if Mama wanted them with Pam Bodger, they wanted to stay with Pam Bodger. It was not happening. So they begrudgingly go with Sherry, and they end up only being with her for a couple days, unfortunately. What ended up happening, they were basically rebelling. They did not want to be with Sherry. They were giving her an extremely hard time. Hiding her car keys is allegedly what was going on. They even tried to run away a couple times. Sherry allegedly ended up calling the police. They ended up coming over with DCFS and taking custody of the girls back because Sherry and them, it just wasn't good for their safety. So the girls and the two youngest end up in custody in like group home or foster care or whatever you want to call it. Ella, thank you so much for your first gift. At that point, Kevin Frankie is coming out of the woodwork. So Kevin Frankie, remember, the husband, had been MIA. Let me bring a picture up here. Had been MIA for 13 months, you guys. 13 months. Now, his family had come forward at one point and said that the oldest daughter, Sherry Franke, had tried to get in touch with Kevin Frankie when he was kicked out of the home, and he refused to answer her phone calls. And part of that reason, I'll show you a picture of Sherry first, guys. Look at this rock star. This is her going to court to see for child custody the first time. This was the first time we saw Sherry. She's been so involved in the court sessions for these kids. So anyway, this is Sherry Franke. So Sherry tried to contact Kevin. Kevin wouldn't have anything to do with her because Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Franke basically said, you cannot have any contact with these children or Ruby Franke's not going to take you back. And unfortunately, guys, he listened. He had nothing to do with her. He was like, yeah, okay, if that's what you want. Okay, let me show you this guy first. Okay. So this is Kevin arriving home to his family house. He showed up with a pillow and like a duffel bag and arrives back at the family home. He claims that Ruby Franke contacted him and said, you need to come get the kids. There's trouble. This was before her arrest. He ends up moving back into the family home. They had an 8-passenger or whatever minivan, this white big van, and it had, I'm going to say decals, and you guys are going to come at me. I know you say decals, but we call them decals. The stickers on the back that said 8 passengers, YouTube, etc. While he's here, this dude from YouTube shows up and he scrapes all of the stickers off of the van. They're like peacing out, like YouTube was bailing quicker than you can say, I don't know what. YouTube then releases a statement and says, Ruby Franke, Jody Hildebrand, you're banned from anything on YouTube. We are banning your channels. So 8 Passengers and the Connections YouTube channels all got taken down. So all of that was just gone. And Ruby Franke has a lifetime ban. She's not ever allowed to post on YouTube ever again. Thank God. So Kevin Frankie's now moved into the home and he becomes this superstar dad. He's like, I want custody of my kids. I love my kids, yada, yada, yada. If you have followed this case at all, you know that he was dropping just as much BS as Ruby Franke during all their vlogging and everything else. He was right along with all this horrible, food as punishment kind of lifestyle, like you name it. Plus, oh, Summer, thank you. Plus, this deadbeat dad ended up piecing out for 13 months and not speaking to his children or knowing where they were, how they were doing, nothing, because Ruby Franke told him to. So no respect at all here for this man. The next thing, guys, is nuts. Hold on. Excuse me. Basically what happened next, the social worker that picked up the 2 middle girls ends up contacting Sherry Frankie and saying, we've got to go to the family home and get whatever these kids need. So Sherry and the social worker and a police officer for protection go to the Frankie family home. Kevin is not there yet. They arrive at the Frankie family home and Sherry and the worker go in the house. And it was laid out to Sherry, like only take what the kids need, things that are necessary for them, clothing, whatever. So she goes in and Sherry being Sherry goes in and she's like, I'm going to take a couple extra things as well. So she goes in the house. She ends up coming out with the things the kids need, but she also took like a laundry basket almost full of stuff. She took passports. She took video vlogs on like tablets and stuff. She took journals. Like this girl was taking it all. Court, thank you. Kevin Franke lost his beans when he got home. So he gets home. The door's busted. The door's been kicked in. This was from the police raid from the other day. And for some reason, he goes right to finding these journals and stuff and realizes they're gone. Now, he claims in a phone call to the police that it was from something Sherry said to him in court about these items that he knew she took them. So this wonderful dad that he is ends up contacting the police on his 20-year-old daughter and wants her charged for theft and vandalism for kicking the front door in. The police, of course, at this time, tell him she's allowed in the home. She's been there, more recently than even you have. Let me just grab a picture here. There we go. She's been in the home more recent than you have. We're not charging her. And as for the stuff, we'll contact her and see if she has that. So a police officer contacts Sherry and is like, yeah, did you grab this stuff? And she's like, yep, I did. And she's, Jenna, thank you. And the police officer's like, yeah, you're not allowed to do that. You have to bring the stuff back to us. So Sherry does. Hopefully she did something with them. I don't know. But anyway, she returns them to the police officer. They call Kevin Franke. They're like, come get the stuff. There is video footage of this. It's on my page under the Ruby Franke folder if you want to check it out. But the police officer is giving him his stuff back and he's like looking through it and he's like, I don't understand why this isn't like theft or whatever, burglary. And the officer's like, well, it's your daughter. She wasn't taking this for malicious reasons. It was believed to, have been of theirs, yada, yada, yada. And he's not happy. Then, however, there's a custody hearing just a couple days later, or it wasn't a couple days, but a couple weeks later, there's a custody hearing. And lo and behold, he shows up with his children. So Chad and Sherry, the 18 and 20-year-old, both showed up with him and his lawyer. And Sherry had a lawyer as well to the second custody hearing. So it looked like they were on better terms, even though he tried to have her charged. I think the family just wants to maybe mend things to get the kids back. I don't know. But anyway, that was just my thoughts. But they arrive at court together. They go in, the judge decides at this point that they're going to have a closed hearing for the custody stuff. They don't want this open to the public. Sherry and Chad and the rest of the family, the immediate family, are allowed in attendance, but nobody else, no media, nothing. So we have no idea what has been happening in those sessions. We do know, however, that the children were with Kevin Franke for Thanksgiving. I haven't heard anything about Christmas, but his lawyer did mention that the youngest children were with him for Thanksgiving. I don't know about Christmas. I'm assuming the same thing. What we do know right now is that there was paperwork allegedly filed a couple weeks ago for custody of, I won't say the name, but the older daughter. So I believe she'd be 16 or 17 now. He did file guardianship papers for her, maybe because she had turned 16 or 17 and you're able to, I don't know. But anyway, something was filed. I have not been able to figure out more than that and why it isn't for the other three, but something has been filed for AF. If you followed, that's who it is. I just respectfully don't drop the kids' names just for their own protection unless they're older, like Sherry and Chad. Okay, so he is trying to get custody. Right now, the state still has custody. His lawyer has actually dropped kind of hints that he thinks this custody stuff could go on as long as till the fall, like till this September of 2024. I hope that's not the case, but that's kind of what's been said. Now, we have to get into court stuff. So let me make sure in my timeline I'm not missing anything right now. We've got, oh yeah, the family has been posting stuff about this. Like Bonnie, her sister, has posted some things. Sherry Frankie has posted a few things. Chad the other day posted probably one of the best that I've seen yet. If you haven't seen it, it's on my page, or again, go in the Ruby Franke folder. I've got it tagged in there. But he did a TikTok video with his girlfriend where the video's on the girlfriend and she says like point of view or something like that. Your girlfriend says, you'd love my mom or something like that. And then it goes to Chad and it says, my mom's in prison. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it. To my mods, please don't pin while I'm talking because it totally squirrels me with my ADHD. I'll come to the chat after I'm done the recap and do questions and stuff then. But I keep wanting to read it and my ADHD. Anyway, all right. Let's see. So we had Kevin at the home. All the YouTube stickers were taken down. Kevin hadn't seen his kids, like I said, in 13 months. He has also now filed for divorce. So it took him like 3 months to do so, but he has now filed for divorce from Ruby Franke. The two of them don't seem to be slinging too much mud against each other. And my guess is because he knows all the dirt on her and she knows all the dirt on him. So the two of them are like, let's just be civil, let this ride out and not reveal our secrets. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, September 8th was the first court appearance for the custody hearing. Let's see, when was the date? September 18th, they were supposed to go to court and it was postponed to October 5th. Hildebrand lost her license on the 21st. Let me see. Kevin filed for divorce on November 29th. I'll read you about the divorce stuff in just a moment. All right, so we got to get to the charges. So the charges, first of all, there were double charges. So they got charged with 3 counts of child abuse per child. So it ended up being 6 charges. And this is what the charges were. So basically they were being accused of either causing or permitting serious physical injury towards these children. So the first charge was a combination of multiple physical injuries or torture. The second charge was starvation or malnutrition that jeopardizes life. And the third was causing severe emotional harm. So those are the 3 charges, and they were doubled, 1 for each child. So it was 6 charges. And allegedly each charge could have up to 15 years in prison and like a $10,000 fine or something like that. Now, what ended up happening is their court date at first, because Jody Hildebrand's lawyer was like, oh, she's not doing well. She's been sick. We need the trial expedited, sped up. And the judge was like, yeah, we can do that. So they sped the days up by 3 days. And then the day before they were supposed to have this first kind of hearing, they ended up, the prosecutors filed paperwork saying, we're not going to be ready in time. There was so much crap we have to go through. We need it to be like postponed. So then the judge again was like, yeah, okay. And he didn't make a new court date. So they literally were sitting in jail waiting for this preliminary hearing for months. So eventually both of them were like, yeah, we're topping out. We're going to put in a plea deal. So they did. So Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Franke have put in plea deals. And what they agreed to was they agreed to 2 of the 3 charges. So basically 4 of the 6, right? Because it's doubled. So the charge they didn't agree to plead guilty to was the malnutrition leading to death. They were like, we're not going to plead to that one. My guess, that's probably the worst charge on there, right? So they are pleading guilty to, or have pled guilty, I should say, to a combination of multiple physical injuries or torture and to causing severe emotional harm. But they did not plead guilty to starvation or malnutrition that jeopardizes life. I'm assuming everybody agreed to this because they didn't want to take it to trial. They didn't want to put these children through anymore. So they were probably like, fine, we'll take, to these 4, but they could still get 15 years per sentence, allegedly. Now, what they ended up doing when they put in this plea deal is they put in paperwork. When they put this paperwork in, they had to admit to what they did, and it's horrendous, you guys. The list of stuff that these awful women, I'm going to put Jody up here while we're talking about it, did to these 2 children is absolutely disgusting. And it basically gave all the details. I don't think it's everything. I feel like if they admitted to this much stuff, what aren't they admitting to? But I will go through the list of basically what they admitted to. Just trigger warning, guys, because it's awful. It was so much worse than we ever suspected when we got this. Like, awful. Okay. I have to find the right notes. Hold on. All right, here it is. Oh, okay. Here's the explanation of the charges, okay? So this timeline that they agreed to was from May of 2023, May 22nd of 2023. This must be the day she moved to Jody Hildebrand's, until August 30th when they were rescued, when the 12-year-old escaped. So we know that he did run away in July, and that's when things really tightened up and got worse for him. But it was bad from the moment they got in there and before. Like, let's be real. We've seen the videos. Okay. So from May 22nd until August 30th of 2023, Ruby intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon her 9 and 11-year-old children. At the time, they were 9 and 11. So I'm going to read that again. Intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to do it. So she's being charged or accused of doing it herself and allowing Jody Hildebrand to do this as well. Like, not good, guys. Count 1. So this is for the physical torture of, I'm just going to give their initials, guys, the 12-year-old son, RF. So this was count 1. This is what they admitted to for this. Initially, he was being forced to do physical tasks for hours and even days on end, including wall sits. If you guys don't know what a wall sit is, it's sheer torture. I used to do CrossFit every once in a while, and it's awful. Basically, you put your back up against a wall and you squat down to be in a pretend sitting position as if you're sitting in a chair, and you have to hold it. They would make him do that for hours. Ugh. Okay. Wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down stairs as punishment, and working outside. Now, you'd think, working outside. No, there's more to it. Outside labor without shoes. They were not allowed to wear footwear. They weren't allowed to have sunscreen. And they were out there all day in the Utah crazy heat. And days were getting up over 100. Jenna, thank you. Guys, thank you so much for tapping the screen. You guys got me at over 200,000 likes. So thank you so much for tapping. And thank you for all the gifts. I so appreciate it, you guys. So this was crazy, crazy hot. One of the neighbors of Jody Hildebrand actually came forward at one point and said that she was outside doing gardening like early morning, and she could see the kids doing gardening at Jody's. And she said by like lunchtime, it got so hot, she had to go in, and she kept seeing the kids still outside. And she kept thinking, oh my God, like, what are they doing? Anyway, it was their punishment. This is what they had to do for punishment. They were forced to stand in direct sunlight for several days and forced to stay outside at all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. So when officers found them, they said their skin was basically like sheathing off. Like it was like just falling off their bones from the amount of sunburns and blisters and everything they got from being forced to stand in direct sunlight. And this was all on purpose. Like, these poor kids, you guys. Anyway, This resulted in repeated and serious sunburns, blistering, sloughing of the skin. They were also denied adequate water. So when they were outside, they were not allowed to have water. And if they got caught at the hose or anything like that, they would be banned from water for an even longer time and restricted food. They were fed only bland meals when they were fed at all, like plain rice and a piece of plain chicken while they were eating normal food in the house. And this is only when they were being fed at all. They were denied, I just said that about the food. They were isolated from others, but this had already been happening at Ruby Franke's home. They were not allowed to play with the other children. All of their cousins and things, they were all disowned from. They were not allowed to see anyone. They were being homeschooled, so they weren't allowed out of the house. But they were being isolated from others, and they were denied all forms of entertainment, including books, paper, and of course, any electronics. So they weren't even allowed to read. Nothing. Now, RF, so the 12-year-old, did try at one point to run away. So they have now been told that it was in July that he attempted to run away. And because of this, his hands and feet were then bound. At first, he was being tied to them. And then it obviously was too inconvenient for them. So what they started doing is hog tying him. So they would put him on his belly. They would take his feet and bend them up and his hands behind his back. They would handcuff both and then put a carabiner between the two handcuffs so he couldn't get up. I don't know how he got out of this the day he escaped, but thank God he did. I honestly, guys, I don't think they were going to survive much longer after this. Like, this is awful. So they were hog tying him. It was not in the safe as we heard initially in some of the 911 calls. There was a safe or a panic room in Jody Hildebrand's. They were not in that room. They were in a different room. And the 10-year-old was not being tied up or restrained allegedly at that time. It was just him because he tried to escape. There were two sets of handcuffs, one on his wrist, one on his ankles, and then they were carabinered together to basically hog tie him. And they said it caused a lot of tissue damage because of the position that he was in, as you can imagine. When his wrists or his ankles would break down, because wearing handcuffs or restraints for that long, of course, your skin breaks down. You get horrible open wounds. They would then smear this cayenne pepper and honey mixture on him and then duct tape over it and put the handcuffs back on. Carrying on. Okay. I already said that part. All right. This one is pretty bad, guys. This is something that Ruby Franke admitted to doing just to RF, the 12-year-old boy. She admitted to kicking him while wearing boots. She admitted to holding his head underwater, basically waterboarding him. And she admitted to cutting off his oxygen by putting her hand over his nose and mouth. I can't help but think why she admitted to this. My only guess is they have video footage of this or something, or text message evidence, because why the hell would she ever admit to that? It is so awful. And my second point, what else is she not admitting to? If she admitted to that, there's got to be a hell of a lot more that she's not telling, right? Okay. The second count, this is also for RF, the 12-year-old son. Count 2 is for actions that cause severe emotional harm to him. This is due to the fact that starting in May, and it escalated until August when he escaped, Ruby and Jody sought to indoctrinate him and convince him that he was evil and possessed. Guys, who does this remind you of, right? Lori Vallow, the doomsday cult mom. She was doing the same thing to her 2 children, right? And then ended up killing them both. So this was on a really bad path. If he didn't escape, she was telling that, or both of them were telling him that he needed to be willing and obedient to avoid punishments. And the punishments, like I said, were all these horrible things that they were doing to him. These were the punishments if he was not being obedient. They said that basically all these punishments were necessary for him to repent, and they were telling him that all this was being done out of love. So he was messed up. Consuelo, thank you, darling. This was messed up. When he went and escaped from the house and the neighbor went to the neighbor's home, the neighbor says to him, like, you know, nobody should have done this to you or whatever. And you can hear him in the background, guys, saying, this is my fault. Like, I did this. Like, he completely believed all this crap they were feeding him. Like, he's going to need so much counseling. Okay, count 3. So now we're moving to the daughter, the 10-year-old. I'm just going to say EF, guys. We'll keep the name confidential, even though you guys do know. But EF is the 10-year-old. So count 3 is for severe emotional harm towards her. She was subjected to the same treatment that her brother got. All the same things that I just told you, except those 3 things in particular. She, like I said, Katie, thank you, admitted to kicking Russell with boots on, holding his face underwater, and covering his mouth to restrict oxygen. Addie, thank you, babes. So those 3 things she did not do to Eve, but there's other things. So everything else was the same that was being happening. Other than the binding, she did not tie up EF because she had not tried to run away. So they were allegedly trusting her. They isolated and forced her to do a bunch of physical tasks as well. She was not allowed to leave the home, no electronics, no entertainment of any kind, etc., etc. But she was also told that she was evil and possessed, and this was all done out of love as well. And if you watch any of Ruby Franke's videos, you know that this was normal for them. Jenna, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, babes. Count 4. This is for the actions causing 2 or more physical injuries to the daughter, to EF. So she was forced to work outside in the heat, barefoot again. She was also, for some reason, forced to run on dirt roads in her bare feet repeatedly. I don't know why she was given this and he wasn't, but this was one of her punishments. She was made to stay outside and do this for extended periods of time. She was repeatedly, of course, having her feet injured. So they said when they found her, like she could hardly walk. Her feet were so raw and sore. She was sunburned. She had scabs, blistered. Her skin was sloughing off as well as her brother's. Like, guys, it was horrendous, like absolutely horrendous. When this piece of work went in and gave her plea deal, it had all the same things that she had been doing. Both of them had been doing it. But she had also added that for EF, the daughter, she either coaxed her or forced her to jump into cactuses. Like, jumped into a cactus. I know just touching a cactus, how bad that bloody hurts when you get those things stuck in you. She was either making her or coercing her to jump into cactuses repeatedly as punishment. So this all came out in the plea deals when they put them in court. And now we've been waiting for the last over 2 months now for sentencing, which is going to be tomorrow. Make sure you hit follow, guys. I am going to be all over this tomorrow. I will definitely be posting, but I will be live tomorrow night as well, talking about what ends up happening. They're sentencing tomorrow. Ruby Franke is 10 a.m. Utah Mountain Time. And apparently Jody Hildebrand is a half an hour later at 10:30. There's lots of guesses going around as to what's going to happen. A lot of people think maybe 5 years for Ruby. I hope it's longer, but who knows? People are thinking Jody is going to get more time. She did agree in her plea deal to testify against Jody if it went to court. However, she put in a plea as well. So whether or not she's going to testify or say anything at the sentencing, we don't know. Are the kids going to talk tomorrow? Everything's up in the air right now. We have no idea how this is going to play out, but it's going to be tomorrow. So stay tuned. So Kevin Franke's lawyer, like I said earlier, filed for divorce for him. That was a while ago. He's also now gone after Jody Hildebrand's money. I might not like Kevin Franke, but I certainly like that he's going after her money as long as it's for the kids. So here's what was filed. So it was asking the judge for restitution from Jody for the 2 kids who suffered like months of abuse in her home at her hands and Ruby Franke's. So basically what they're saying is that the kids went through all of this trauma. They're in custody of the state right now. So right now the government is paying for all of this. So they're getting extensive counseling right now, medical treatments, therapy, you name it. But once Kevin Franke or whoever else gets custody, they're going to have to pay for it. So they want the money from Jody Hildebrand's estate. She was trying to sell her mansion for $5.3 million. They stopped the sale of that initially, but then they agreed if she put $100,000 aside for the kids, that she could continue with the sale. Everyone knows $100,000 is nowhere near what these children deserve. Tomorrow is also going to tell that. They also put this, I don't know what you want to call it, restraining order against her selling or getting rid of her items on hold until tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'm assuming during her sentencing, they're also going to touch on this restitution charge, and we'll see what the kids are going to get. I'm guessing somebody's going to end up suing her as well, whether it's Kevin Franke or the kids. The kids are going to be able to sue these monsters at some point, and the time limit allegedly doesn't start until the kids hit adulthood. So the 2 youngest, who are 12 and 10, when they become adults at 18, that's when the time limit starts. So they don't have to decide anything now. They can wait till they get older, or it could be done now. We'll have to wait and see kind of what goes on. But we've got the upcoming hearing. February 1st was a review. Okay, I think we covered pretty much everything. I think we are up to, that was a lot, you guys. That was a lot. I think we are up to date. That is a full recap. If you missed it, I can't go through everything again, guys. It just took us like an hour, but I have all this information already on my page. Go under my name. There's a file called Ruby Franke Arrest. All my videos are in there. If you scroll way down, I've got a lot of videos on it. You'll come to the most recent. There's also timelines and stuff. There's also a bunch of videos in there of how she treated her kids, like on her vlog. There's some podcast garbage from Connections on there, the 911 calls, like all of that's on there that you guys can get caught up with this evening because tomorrow is sentencing. I'm coming to your comments, guys. I have not been able to answer anything because I just yapped for the last hour. So I'm coming to you. I did miss the live, but I'll check out your profile. Thanks, Terry. Sorry, I missed the last part. What can the kids do at a later date? Oh, so sue. So the kids will be able to sue for what's happened to them. And nothing has to happen for them right now. So as soon as they hit adulthood, like 18, that's when their time limit starts. So because they're children, it's not expected for them to have to do it right now. So they can wait till they're 18, or someone can do it on their behalf, I'm assuming. I'm wondering about Chad and Sherry. Are they going to do anything? Like, we'll have to see. Does the dad see the younger two children? Yes, allegedly he does. His lawyer came out and said a few months back that they were at his home, the Ruby Franke household, for Thanksgiving. So he has been seeing them. Where can we watch the hearing? I can't get to it because I'm in Canada and the Utah court's website doesn't work for me for some weird reason. But what usually happens is you register on the Utah court's website and they'll send you a link. It hasn't worked well in the past. So I recommend just finding someone like Court TV or something like that that's going to be streaming it. I'm unfortunately working at that time tomorrow, so I'll be posting when I get home, but I definitely will be posting, so make sure you hit follow. Why is Kevin not arrested? Kevin hadn't seen them for 13 months, so he was not around when all this garbage was going on. And allegedly, nothing that was done before was considered abuse, although a lot of us think it was. But yeah, he has not been proven to do anything to be arrested for. Oh, thanks, Laura. Guys, this is my YouTube channel. I think I'm pointing the wrong place. On my screen, it's up here. It's The Recap with Julie, or Julie Louise 1975. I will be posting a lot more on my YouTube. So if you would go give me a follow, I would greatly appreciate that too. Are her parents and sisters supporting her? The word is out on that. I don't know. So when she went for her plea deal and pled guilty, she had her mom and dad there. She had her brother, Bo, and her sister-in-law. And she also had Julie. They were all in attendance. They were sitting behind Ruby, which to me signals support. They also, when Ruby turned around to look at them, they all smiled at her and her mother mouthed, "I love you." Now I know, of course you love your daughter. I just felt that it was showing support for Ruby when I personally thought they should have sat on the other side and been there for their grandkids, but that's just my opinion. But of course you're not going to stop loving your daughter just because she's done something horrendous. You're always going to love your daughter, but showing support is a little bit different. Anything new about the two older girls? I believe they're in foster care. Emma, nothing right now. I do know from court paperwork that Kevin filed last week or the week before that he's trying to get guardianship of one of the older girls, AF, if you follow the family. But we don't know what's going to happen with that or why he's only filed it for her. I don't really know exactly who wouldn't support their grandkids in this situation. I know, Jen. Yeah. And the fact that they didn't come home right away speaks volumes to me. I understand they were on a mission, but if I found out that my daughter had done all of this to my grandchildren, I would have been home so fast trying to get custody of those kids and get them out of foster care, but they didn't. They didn't get home for quite some time after. Will we ever find out about the custody? Yes and no. We're not going to find out through the courts what happened because it's completely closed, but I think we'll be able to find out from media catching glimpses of things. Like, I think personally, if Kevin Franke gets custody, he's going to be proud of that and announce it personally. But I think we'll hear little tidbits, but nothing through the media. Speak volumes on what the grandparents are like. Where can we find these videos again? So if you click on my name and go to my profile, underneath my profile, I have all those like little folders that keep my videos organized. There's a folder there that says Ruby Franke arrest. So if you go in that and scroll through, you'll find some that I have of videos, clips of what she was doing in her vlogs to her kids. I have the 911 calls, video footage of the raids to her home, things like that. They're all in there. So the public can see the sentencing tomorrow. Yes, that is not closed. So we're going to be able to watch tomorrow for the sentencing. Whether or not anyone is going to speak is anyone's guess. I don't know. But yes, we'll be able to watch it. What are max and minimum time charges? So allegedly for each charge, it carries a maximum penalty of 15 years and like a $10,000 fine. And they pled guilty to 4 counts. There's no way they're getting that, but yeah. Why are they in foster care instead of with family? Good question. I don't think anyone knew where a safe place to land for these kids was, is my guess. I don't know if her sisters asked to have custody. I don't know who offered. All we know right now is that Sherry offered to take the 2 older children, possibly all of them, and that Kevin Frankie is trying to get custody. Jenna, thank you, sweetheart. But yes, I don't know if the grandparents said they would. I mean, anything could be on the table right now. We just wouldn't know. Lisa, hi, darling. Thank you. What makes someone capable of doing this to their children? Waftig, you know what? Unfortunately, it's extreme religious beliefs. These people that become extremely religious and then go over the deep end and become these, I don't even know what the term is for it. Like they just become completely indoctrinated in like crazy thoughts. It's not even the way their religion is. They go completely left of what their religion is. And they end up believing this is what they need to do. Like it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Religious fanatics. Yes. Extremists. Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. Oh, who just said that? Mizzy, thank you so much. Mizzy just said you're an amazing storyteller. This is my jam, you guys. I love this stuff. I think that's why I'm a teacher. Research and telling people stuff. It's my jam. What is Chad doing now? Guys, Chad's video. If you have not seen Chad's latest TikTok video, you have got to watch it. I did put it on my page. His girlfriend put it in her story, so it's probably expired now. But she had like a couple hundred followers. He reposted her TikTok video that she had in her stories on his Instagram stories. And all of a sudden her follower count went up like into the thousands. Like it was hilarious. She had, I think the last time I looked, there was like 200 or 300,000 views on this story. What it was is it's on her first and they're doing this TikTok dance and it says, girlfriend, you'll love my mom or you'll love meeting my mom or something like that. And then it goes to him and he's doing the TikTok dance and it says, boyfriend, my mom's in prison. And everybody was like, oh my God, no, he didn't. Like, good on Chad. Make jokes about it. Bring yourself to a good place where you can accept what's happened and move on. Like, do whatever you need to do, Chad. I think it is awesome that he can handle this with grace and humor. And I love it. I think it says a lot about maybe where he's at right now. And I hope the other kids can move on like that too. Yes, Sherry chopped her hair off as well. So Sherry cut all her hair off. It was like down here or something. She chopped it up to here. It looks absolutely sweet. She basically said, time for a new me. Her sister, was it Julie? Oh, I can't remember. I think it was her sister, Julie, posted, oh, Jenna, thank you so much, babes. Jenna, posted that, this is going to be a really heavy week. Bonnie was in Florida. Like everybody's kind of got stuff going on right now and they're all kind of posting about what's happening tomorrow. Like tomorrow is a huge day for this family. Why wouldn't Kevin know how his kids are doing for 13 months? Lauren, he pieced out. So this woman, this counselor, decided that one of the ways that marriages get fixed is you separate for at least a year, don't see each other, don't talk. The wife can only contact you max of 3 times in a whole year, and then you'll be able to get together and everything will be better. This is what this woman said. And she went along with it. So she told Kevin, you need to get out if you want this marriage to work. Kevin was like, okay, I totally will. He pieced out and didn't see his kids for 13 months. Jim Malibu! Thank you so much for covering this story. This is the only place I watched it. Ned, I love you. Thank you so much, Ned. You can watch live on KUTV News. I'm going to pin Amber's comment. Oh, hold on. Where is Amber's comment? I'm going to pin Amber's comment. KUTV News, guys, has been covering this like you wouldn't believe. They have gotten all of the court documents first. They have posted everything. Like, they are on this. I think the man's name's Brian Schnee. I hope I said his last name right. But he has been covering and following this. So they will be all over this tomorrow as well. And hopefully we can watch live coverage on there, because I will hopefully be able to get some screen grabs of that. And when I come on tomorrow night, we will watch that footage together if you guys miss it as well. I'm going to be working when it's on, so I'll have to wait. So I think 10 a.m. Mountain Time, I think is, I think it's, guys, what is it with Eastern Time? Is it 3 hours behind or 4 hours? I think it's 3 hours behind Eastern, 10, 11, 12. So it's on 1 Eastern, so it would be 2 p.m. for me. Is it 3, guys? 2 hours behind. Oh, we got a bunch of different answers here. Which is it? You can turn off co-host invitations. No, I don't want to do that. 2 behind? Is it 2, guys? Okay, it's 3 for me then. So 10, 11, 12. So it's 1 p.m. for me in Atlantic time zone. So I won't be able to get on. I will come on at 3 p.m. Eastern, or try to. I'll be on tomorrow evening. I'll try and get on if I can at 3 p.m. Eastern to do a recap and possibly play the footage, but it may be a little later for me. Kitty, it's 4 for me. Okay. Why is Kevin only asking for guardianship of one child? Nicole, that's what I don't understand. I don't know if it's because she's now going to be, I think, 17. So maybe he's got to go for guardianship of her now, but he's trying to get custody of the younger 3. I'm not sure. It's weird. But it was just put in for the one child, apparently.